Ready? And try not to kick the table because it'll move the camera.
Okay, sorry, yes.
Give us this. As soon as you're still in the shot.
Like this.
All right, still in there. It's all good. All right, here we go. Good morning, Bitcoin, and welcome to Proof of Work. My name is Thomas Hunt, and Proof of Work is a show about the people behind Bitcoin and how they got here. Today we're joined by Thomas from Electrum Wallet. How's it going, Thomas?
I'm good, thank you.
Obviously, great name.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to share it with anyone.
How are you enjoying Majorca so far?
It's been good. I had a little bit of a cold because of the air conditioning. Mm-hmm. I think it will probably be audible on the recording.
Yeah. Well, it's better these days to have air conditioning than not to have it, given the Cerebus heat wave that is rushing across Europe.
That's true.
So Thomas, let's go ahead and begin with everyone's most favorite and familiar question. What was your first computer?
It was a pocket calculator that I had in school. I don't remember which grade it was. Mm-hmm. I think I probably was 14 or no, earlier than that. I think. Yes, I must have been 12. I don't remember.
And what kind of things could you do with this pocket calculator?
So if I remember correctly, it was Casio, the brand. It had a screen with pixels, not just those LCD numbers, but
yeah.
you already had pixels there. Mm-hmm. It was foldable, and you had a very little programming language, simpler than BASIC, because I remember you had, in BASIC you could have, you had line numbers, and you would type go to line number X. In that pre-BASIC calculator, you had labels, and you had only 10 of them. And so you could write go to label 2 or go to label 7 in your code. And that's it. That's where you were allowed to branch 10 times, or to loop 10 times.
So even though it was just a calculator, you were able to program on it? What kind of programs did you write?
I don't quite remember. I must have. Oh yeah, I do remember that there was an instruction manual with one of the examples was how to decompose an integer in primes. Uh-huh. And actually, it was poorly written, and I managed to make it twice shorter than the example from the book.
Oh, nice.
I think maybe it was, I don't know, maybe they did this on purpose so that users feel smart.
Sure, yeah. Or they just weren't very tight with their code, like they just let it out there.
No, there was clearly user stuff there. I don't know, maybe that was an oversight.
So that's pretty amazing and interesting that you were able to get into programs so quickly with such a smaller computer. Did you graduate to larger and larger computers? Did you stick with the programming?
Yeah, well, I at some point my parents bought a PC at home, mm-hmm. But I think I initially learned programming from a collection of pocket calculators like this one. So this one was the first. The next one I had after that was doing proper BASIC, mm-hmm. And also assembly language.
Oh wow!
So that was something already.
That's
and
a crazy thing
at that time, you had to be careful with memory usage, of course.
Yes, of course.
I don't remember exactly how much memory it had, but it was in kilobytes.
Oh, yeah.
It was expressed in kilobytes at the time.
Did you get code examples from magazines or books or something, or were you all kind of on your own just with the calculator?
In the school, mm-hmm. Kids in the school had a fair bit of emulation. We were comparing what we were doing.
Nice.
Yeah, I programmed a little video game in that calculator.
Yeah? What did it do? Was it like a shooter like Space Invaders or something like that? Or?
Yeah. Not really Space Invaders, but you had like a spaceship that was bombing buildings.
Nice. When I was in high school, a friend of mine made a full clone of Moon Patrol, mm-hmm. in BASIC or something. Yes. And it was amazing. He was miles ahead of the rest of the class, and it was really too bad he transferred away to another school, and I know I could have learned so much more if I could just sit next to him longer.
Okay, yes.
He just had everything.
But the thing is that really computer programming, as far as I can say is really some autodidact activity. I think I learned later in school, of course. I learned a lot of things,
Sure.
but I wouldn't have learned as efficiently if I had not known what it was about in the first place. Because you have to get what it is about. You have to know what programming is before you can grasp concepts like pointers
Sure,
or
yeah.
algorithmic complexity. All this is very abstract if you've never been programming before.
Yeah, it was really difficult for me to learn programming because I couldn't connect the things they were trying to teach me with a real world application.
Yes.
Later on, when I tried to do like PHP and MySQL database is obviously not very fancy or anything, but taking data, putting it in, taking it out, putting it back in, I understood that. I understand displaying it on a web page, but at the time they were teaching us like long arrays and just dealing with numbers and stuff, and I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't get excited and interested, whereas years later when I wanted to write a blog, it was like, I need a blog, I need a posting thing, I want it to email people, and I just kept adding little things to my little blog software. And then it was pretty fun for a while. Did you write similar programs yourself, or just games, or where'd you go from there?
It gives you, I think
Sure.
the fun comes from the fact that you are God, you are playing God.
Yes.
That's really, you're a little kid in school and you get to be God on a device.
Yeah.
That's, I think, one of the big drivers and also you see computers from a different angle. You see what's behind them.
Yeah.
So you feel powerful. But yeah, to answer your question, what did I do next? I do remember that on the. Oh wow. Okay, I can't really order the bits anymore.
Sure.
But I learned about computer viruses at some point.
Interesting.
That's because we got a virus at home on a floppy disk.
Yeah.
And we had a McAfee antivirus, so
Sure.
it was able to detect it. So then I learned. It was only one block, so not even a kilobyte. I think the block was 512 bytes.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So
or
it's
maybe
a very
that's
small virus.
Or maybe it's the virus is super compact, and it's a bootloader virus. So it's not specific to the Windows or to the operating system. Actually, it's a virus that was writing itself in the first block of the floppy or the hard drive.
Yeah.
And then when you accidentally boot on the floppy, it spreads to the computer that it's on.
Sure.
And then every time you boot the computer, it's going to hijack the interruption of the MS-DOS so that it could write itself on every floppy disk that is accessed by this computer. So we got this virus, I don't know how, but then I modified it a little bit, and then McAfee was no longer able to detect. Of course, because they had like a list of patterns.
Sure.
So it was
and you
easy
changed it enough that.
And then I got more into that, and I did a bit of crazy stuff with a virus that was constantly changing its code.
Well, it's really interesting to
think
have
I was
something that executes like that gets in the bootloader that like is such a, and then to try to tweak it and make it more and do things with it. It's fantastic.
I think I was 14 at that time, and then there was another computer virus that was in the news. I don't think I ever met him in person, so to say. But I remember the display, the screens were still in ASCII. It was not the graphical mode.
Yeah.
And you had this ping pong ball. So the virus was called Pong or ping pong. It just displayed a little star that was bouncing on your windows.
Yeah.
And so I programmed that. Not the virus, but just the little star that was bouncing. I learned to program that in Pascal, because Pascal was the language that we used in the schools.
Yeah.
And I got I was able to write this in 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So that means when we were entering a room as students for physics, for example, so we had a class where there were computers. Before the teacher could realize it, I already had coded this on the local machine, And then I was showing to the teacher, look, we have a virus.
Oh no!
Because I was showing this little ball that was bouncing on the
Sure.
windows. It was not a functional virus. It was just an interruption of the of the DOS.
But they, what do they know? They don't know how to deal with a lot
they
of
see
these
this.
things,
They see the news about this ping pong thing. They think it is there.
Is that? Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And it's interesting how you were ahead of your teachers already. And so many times with computers, I mean, I know I went into the room and every day computer, and pretty soon I was much better at computers than my parents or my family or anybody else that I knew really, except my friends, and we just all were so into it all the time, BBSs and being online eventually, and those kind of things. But where'd you go from there? Bigger and bigger computers, bigger programs? Did you study in school or?
No, because then I was doing mostly mathematics and physics in school, so I kind of, I was following computer programming courses, but I wasn't really learning much there. I remember I bought some magazines about neural networks.
Yeah.
That was in the first year of university, I think. And I did that as a hobby. I mean, it was the 80s. There was this backpropagation algorithm. And there was also the game of life.
Yeah.
I remember doing variations on the game of life in
the evolutionary game where it creates new things.
You can tweak the rules, and it's not going to do the game of life as you know it, but it's going to draw beautiful labyrinth.
Sure.
And you can add colors, and it can really be.
It's an interesting idea. It's kind of a generative thing. It's similar to a virus in a way, like a growing, living thing.
Cellular automata. It's. There was another thing called reaction diffusion. Those equations that I think it's from Alan Turing.
Sure.
So you can draw patterns that look like a leopard skin.
Yeah.
So I was doing this. I remember I was doing these kind of things, but I wasn't involved in any large project because I was mostly busy doing my university stuff, also mathematics, physics.
Did you go into math and physics as a career after that, or?
Yeah, well, I did.
Probably a teacher. I mean, I don't know where you go from there.
Yeah. I became a student in mathematics and. With a major in math.
Like a graduate studies? I mean, did you climb the ladder?
Yeah, I did a PhD. Well, I did a master's in cognitive science.
Interesting.
I was already. I was attracted by biology already, and
also
then
very much about systems and overlapping variables. I mean, the biological world.
And biology is decentralized.
I
think this is also what attracted me in neural networks. It's a model of computation that is decentralized. So I did cognitive science because I had this interest in neural nets.
Yeah.
And then I did a PhD in machine learning, mostly about unsupervised learning methods in recurrent networks.
Yeah.
And from there,
it sounds like you were very early to that as well. I mean, this was kind of still 80s and 90s? Or?
Oh, no. I mean, it was
coming along.
It was. I finished my PhD in 2002, I think.
Very good.
Yeah. And then
so,
I got
full modern computers, internet, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, my first contact with the internet was, I think, 95 at university. We didn't have PCs there. We had Sun, Spark.
Sure.
Do you remember those?
We had some Suns in the computer lab, and I used terminals and all kinds of other things to,
And then some students were installing Linux at home, but Linux was not in the university there. We had those Sun, Spark.
Sure, like HPUX and Solaris and other like versions of early Unix.
And then people were talking about Linux. It was like the covert thing.
Yeah.
But some years later, when I was myself a PhD student, of course, then I had Linux on my laptop.
Yeah.
And
they were talking online on Twitter recently about what was your first Linux distro. I remember Slackware. I remember installing Slackware, and just like I would do with Windows, format my hard drive, install the operating system, mess it up, go as far as I can, some kind of error I can't get past, format the hard drive, reinstall Windows, back to DOS, and just trying to figure out like what Linux was, what the difference was. As a kid, it was really hard to see, and especially before kind of X Windows got a lot better, and these things, it was kind of command line to command line.
Yeah.
And it was like you could make a really neat command line, and you could change the colors, and you could list files differently. I mean, it was hard for me to differentiate as a kid, like what the difference was. But did you take to Linux right away? Did you see the advantages?
I never had a computer with Windows. I had MS-DOS, like I explained before.
Sure.
So MS-DOS was before. I mean, it has all these ASCII kind of Windows.
Yeah.
And then when the graphical user interface started to appear, I did not have a PC, and I was too busy with doing the serious math and physics than programming. So I kind of
you like skipped Windows.
I skipped Windows, and then I went to university with those machines that were using Sun Solaris, whatever. I don't remember it was called Solaris.
Solaris, yeah.
But then
it's a flavor of Unix, yeah.
Then I don't remember exactly when I started to use Linux, but during I must have bought a laptop or a laptop with Linux that I installed with the help of some friends. And I remember during my PhD, my thesis advisor had bought a very expensive Sun workstation.
Yeah.
I think it was 200K, or I mean, maybe it was French francs, not euros. I don't remember. I have this number 200, but that must have been before the euro was introduced. I don't want to say something silly, but nevertheless, the reason why he needed to spend so much money is that he wanted to run MATLAB. And then I told him, I can install Linux on your laptop, and you will have MATLAB on your laptop. And so I did.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, his laptop was maybe 5% of the price of the workstation.
Sure,
and MATLAB was running faster on the laptop.
Wow.
And he could take it home.
Wow.
So it was
incredible. Definite advantage to Linux. Yeah, a lot of I used to work in the computer labs at college, and a lot of the guys there were running MATLAB and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the thing is that those workstations also were really, really overpriced.
Oh yeah, well they were for institutions and colleges, high-level people. They weren't really targeting consumers with that kind of thing. Yeah. So how did you go from math and studying biology to getting into Bitcoin?
Wow. I was, it's a bit, it's a convoluted story, but during my PhD years, I was also wasting my time, like every student should, on a side project. And this side project was a peer-to-peer distributed hash table.
Okay.
It was called the Circle. And the name comes from the topology. It was an implementation of an MIT paper called CHORD, C-H-O-R-D, which was later replaced by Cademia. Cademia is a hypercube. Maybe you have heard about Cademia. It's more efficient actually than the circle topology. Nice. But anyway, I got, this was my first contact with the Python programming language because it was in Python.
Yeah.
And this project was started by an Aussie guy, can't remember, Harrison maybe? I don't remember his name. But after a year or so, he disappeared from the project, and I was one of the main contributors, so I took over the project. And so we had this distributed hash table. We were trying to find applications for this.
Sure.
And so obviously file sharing was the primary one, but we were also trying to do news. We were trying to do crazy things. Chat, IRC, decentralized. And then my goal was to create a distributed currency already.
There you go.
I thought, maybe we could use this But obviously, I didn't have any solution to the double spend problem. The only knowledge that I had about this was Byzantine agreements,
Yeah.
which is, the decentralized consensus that is not robust at all.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
so
there was a need for an internet currency. Like there was,
Oh, yeah.
websites could use MasterCard and Visa, mainly porn websites, but normal people couldn't really accept money. Like if you just put up your web page, it's not like you could accept credit cards and that someone would come give you $5. There was really no exchange of value other than people creating videos or content and things. There was no monetary value exchange going on the internet. So it's pretty clear there'd be a need for that.
Yeah, some people were talking about this in some forums. So I think I must have read the what's his name? Why Die?
Why Die?
Yeah. Okay, I can't remember in which order I read what, but
sure. But you started researching this. You were interested in the digital currency idea, so you're right on the edge of it.
Yeah,
I
think I
did
gave
you find it early? Did you find it later, or
what?
The Bitcoin, like when it came out right away, or did you?
Oh, it came out maybe 10 years after the. I mean, this is during my PhD years, and then I gave it up, of course, because I'm not Satoshi. I didn't find the solution.
You couldn't
to the
find
double
the
spend.
solution, yeah.
So it was just a toy project for maybe a year or two. And then I went into academia.
Like, Adam Back was working on proof of work, but he didn't have the other solutions. He didn't have you're working on this part. You don't have the other solutions. All of these various projects come together in the Satoshi project to give us what becomes the Bitcoin.
But when I found about the Satoshi paper for the first time, it was so foreign to anything that I could have thought that I just could not read this. I could not understand it.
Sure.
So the thing is, I was still reading Hacker News about, or Slashdot. Actually, I discovered Bitcoin about an article, because of an article, or thanks to an article on Slashdot.
Yeah, I read Slashdot religiously as well, and I also saw the Bitcoin articles.
So they had
People
an article.
were very dismissive as well. It was not so you saw it and you were awakened. It was like you saw it, you thought about it. I certainly talked to my roommate who was a computer programmer, and I kind of thought he knew more than me, and he was very dismissive of it. So that's one of the reasons I put it in the back of my head is I was like, well, he doesn't like it, and he knows about BitTorrent and other things, like maybe it's not that great. And then it kept going up and down in the news, like the EFF would accept it, and then the EFF stopped accepting it. And it was like, get into Bitcoin? Oh no, maybe don't get into Bitcoin yet. Get into Bitcoin, and then the price would go up and down as well, and you'd hear about it only afterwards, of course. Like you'd hear it goes to this price, and you'd be like, damn, I'm stupid. And then it would go to this crazy other price, and you'd be like, damn, I'm stupid again. And at the same time, like, you just don't know because there were so many other, like, eCoin, Liberty Dollar, Gold Dollars, all these different attempts at the same project. And for all you know, Bitcoin is another version, another attempt, not the winner.
It was end of 2010 when I saw this Slashdot article. The title was Bitcoin market cap reaches $1 million for the first time. And so I went to the website and it was in December. It was just before Christmas, I think. And or November, I don't remember, but because I bought my first Bitcoin in December of the same year. This website, the Bitcoin website, when I first hit it, it looked familiar. I thought, oh, I've been there already. Maybe it was a year ago, 6 months ago. But because I must have visited it and dismissed it quickly.
Sure.
Like you said, we didn't know what it was. And
I also think that it has and not to be mean to Bitcoin, it doesn't have a great name. When I tell you bit and coin, it sounds small. It sounds kind of like cyber coin, cyber money. It doesn't familiar.
You have to make yourself a name. I mean, if you're new, it's.
But I think even just the name, even just like, if it was cyber money or cyber cash, or internet money, I don't know.
But I do remember the graphical design of the page. It really was something. I thought I must have been there already.
Huh.
Uh,
I wonder if
and-
it was deja vu, like a collective unconscious feeling
Yes.
that like you're on the right path now,
Yes,
because obviously
yes.
you go on to work in
But then
you
it was,
know.
so now it was the second time, and I had a testimony of Slashdot that it had some value, because
Yes.
Slashdot told me that there is $1 million
Sure,
in
sure.
there.
Well, because at first,
So-
you know, people were trading just Bitcoin on their own. It didn't have a dollar value. It didn't have an exchange price.
Yeah.
It was, you know,
Yeah.
we had no idea if it would even ever be worth money at all. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then, and on that time, I downloaded the paper, the 6 pages,
Yeah,
7
yeah.
pages Satoshi
Sure.
paper, and I tried to read it, and it kept me busy
Uh-huh.
because, well, first I was overexcited by this paper because I thought, oh my God, they have succeeded. Someone has succeeded.
Yes.
Okay.
And you yourself had tried the problem.
Yes,
You'd like worked
yes.
out early versions.
It was a
and
problem.
you knew how big the walls
And
were.
every time I
Yeah.
was reading a line, I was trying to relate it to what I had been doing, which was completely foreign
Yeah.
to me because I never had any idea about proof of work, this kind of thing.
Sure.
So it was completely different, but I was desperately trying to. My mind was shutting itself on every new sentence. And seriously, it took me 3 days to.
Wow.
And I did not sleep during those nights.
Oh my.
I was like. I mean, okay, the first night I did not sleep at all. The second one I must have managed to sleep
Yeah,
because I was so
yeah.
tired. But yeah, you get tired, your brain shuts off.
yeah.
And it took me 3 days to understand this paper.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's my first
what a
exposure
what a
to.
great moment. Like what a
Yeah.
monumental experience of like really being transformed. I know. I mean, I tell it all the time. I wish he was here to tell it himself, but Andreas talks about much the same thing. He was like, he went down a rabbit hole. He describes it as a fugue state. That he just was so focused, like he would forget to eat. I don't think he visited with his family. Like he just, you know, so many things that he'd always kind of dreamed about and wanted were there in that paper, there in that idea. And I mean, I know I could definitely see a bunch of offshoots and a bunch of ideas of how this could really help and be just so much bigger than just a computer program or a paper or an idea.
Yes.
And I think so many other people as well just felt that, you know, reading it, learning about it, seeing it work.
No, reading the paper for me was not really possible for more than 24 hours. I was trying very hard and
Yeah.
I had no sleep. That's really something.
That's an amazing experience.
But then, yeah, I kind of understood also with the help of some of what people were telling in the forums, because
Sure.
the paper itself had to be explained by some posts
course,
in the
yeah.
forum. It was the Bitcoin Talk forum at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, and after that, I started to mine. I never mined any single Bitcoin, but I tried.
Oh,
I only had a laptop, and it was already. I mean, I think that this Bitcoin Core, you know, it was just called Bitcoin application, was telling me that with my hash rate, it would take maybe 3 or 4 days to mine a block.
Yeah,
Leaving the computer constantly on. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to buy some. That's easier.
yeah. Nice. Did you go to like just Bitcoin Talk and do a deal with somebody, like an individual deal? Kind of?
Yeah. There was. I think it was OTC. Yeah.
Sure. And how'd you go from there to deciding you wanted to program and make applications for Bitcoin?
Well, it was obsessing me. I did not decide straight away to do a wallet, but I was playing with the concepts around Bitcoin. I was playing with. I was writing a few Python scripts
Nice.
to create and sign transactions.
Okay.
And then I also was. There was a block explorer that was open source. Was it called ADB? Maybe, yeah. I think it was called ADB.
I do love that
That's
you're
funny
able to...
because now we have a component of Electrum that is called ADB, so that's I
be
might be
connected,
mixing
yeah.
things up, but yes.
But I like how you're able to take like an open source block explorer or the virus early on, go inside it, change some things, see how it works, change some things, see how it works.
Oh, this is how you learn.
Yeah.
You learn by tinkering. So I was...
And I think a lot of teachers and other students out there would think that's a valuable idea and something to have, because so many times they give you the book example and it's very dull.
Yes.
But if you could see it in action, like look inside that code, add to it, change it, it's much more engaging, I think.
Yes. And then you have... well, I didn't have the goal to create a wallet initially, but I just created a few scripts. And there was this mybitcoin.com catastrophe in the summer 2011? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I realized I could probably design a wallet that was giving a similar user experience as a website, but without being a website.
Yeah.
Using ADB as the Electrum server, this block explorer had a database to organize the blockchain information. So the only thing that was missing was a communication protocol between the parts of the software that was indexing the blockchain and the part of the software that was creating and signing a transaction.
Sure.
So this is how it started.
Awesome. So you're able to take a block explorer, add sending and receiving transactions to it, and get the very basics of a wallet. And you also saw the My Bitcoin disaster as people holding centralized keys, online keys. I don't know if it was theft or a database error or whatever that destroyed it, but to avoid that, right, is something to avoid. Like if you had,
sorry, what is it?
Well, the people lost money in My Bitcoin, so you saw that as like something bad, something that could be fixed. If they had
so
local,
this crashed the price of Bitcoin more than empty gods. Nobody talked about it because the market cap was so small at the time.
Yeah.
So it didn't. It was not noticeable in terms of fiat, but in percentage, in terms of Bitcoin percentage, it was very serious.
So it was a major event, and then it would lead you to see how having a wallet that's just on your laptop would be better for a user than having that web wallet.
Yes.
So how did you go from there towards really kind of making a company and building it out with Electrum?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's... I think I created the company a few years later. It was just a side project at the beginning, and I was still doing my academic research. But Bitcoin was stealing more and more of my time. I remember at some point I decided to give the project to Amir Taki, and I withdrew for maybe 6 months or a year, trying to detox myself.
Trying to get back to that straight academia, the math, the science,
and I could not do it. And so after some time I came back, and I was working again on Electrum, and I decided, well, I don't know, at some point I decided that I had to talk to the director of my research lab and to explain, okay, I want to create a company. And that's so I had the chance to have a full job, permanent position of a researcher, and so I could have a leave, unpaid leave, but I took that for several years, and I created the company during that time.
Nice. And how did it go? You just start off small, like a startup, only a couple people, mainly programmers, I think?
No, it was very small. It was just myself. I mean, the company was there just to have a legal existence. But I was not even paying myself. I started to pay myself actually recently. I mean, I paid developers before I paid myself. I paid myself only, I think I started 3 years ago or 4 years ago because my accountant was telling me you should really pay yourself or you're going to run into some trouble.
So how was the reaction to Electrum Wallet? Did people like it? Did they understand what you're saying by trying to hold the keys locally rather than on a website?
Yeah, it was quite successful.
Excellent.
I think because it was the first wallet that had this structure, this client-server structure that makes it fast. You had other wallets that were using SPV. It was Bitcoin J. Also, Bitcoin J is the library, and there was a bunch of wallets that were based on Bitcoin J. and they were using SPV, but they had to synchronize in a slower way.
So
I mean,
did they download the whole blockchain? Because that could
initially,
be
yes,
taxing.
they downloaded the whole chain and they discarded the blocks that they were not interested in. And then later they found about the Bloom filter so that they had less data to download.
Yeah.
But it was still slower than Electrum. Electrum was faster. I think it's one of the Aristotle properties of money. Your money must be accessible. If you need to wait several days before you can access it,
Sure.
is it still money? So that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to use a slow synchronization protocol. And also the Bloom filter, I didn't like the design. But we had this little war because the people behind Bitcoin J were kind of implying that Electrum was not SPV, which is total bullshit because SPV is not about how you get the data, it's about what you do with it.
Sure.
You can request the Merkle proof any way you want. It's not part of the SPV. So anyway, I think now this discussion is over. Yeah, nobody cares about it anymore.
Yeah. So you created the wallet, and then it went well, and then you just start going to Bitcoin conferences and just telling people about the wallet. Is that kind of what you did next? What was your plan?
Yes. Wow. I don't remember which was the first Bitcoin conference. Maybe it was Amsterdam.
Nice. That was a very early one. I think Mike Dupree was there. Several of our friends. Martine probably.
I didn't know him at the time, but the very, very first person I met in the physical world about Bitcoin was Amir Taki.
Nice.
And it was in 2012. Wow. It was in Berlin.
Yeah.
That was my first contact with a real person in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And we were meeting because Amir had been contributing to Electrum. And he wanted to use, he was working on his project that was called LibBitcoin, and he wanted to create an Electrum server based on LibBitcoin. So,
sure.
Yeah.
And you were able to work together on that and collaborate, yeah?
No. Well, he finished this, except he never implemented the mempool. So I don't think it was usable in practice.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
It does kind of change things when you meet someone in person that actually likes Bitcoin, right?
Yeah. It was for me. I was a bit. It's like you're getting out of the wood. I mean, you meet. It was before I had actually decided to go on my own with my job. You know, I still had my university job at the time.
Yeah.
And so I was meeting Amir in Berlin, and we went to this room 77 burger place where you could actually pay using Bitcoin. That was also first time for me, first experience doing that. Amir was asking, because I was paying obviously with Electrum.
Yeah.
And so he was asking, and did you mine those Bitcoins yourself? But no, I did not. No.
No, that still must have been amazing though, the first time that I don't know if you do it on your wallet or have a phone or whatever, but you buy a cheeseburger with Bitcoin.
It becomes
what an amazing
real.
action.
Yes, it becomes real.
Yeah, I remember, very quickly once I had got some, it was like, well, maybe I can buy a keychain online and they'll send it to me. And then they actually send it to you and you're like, this worked, like I sent something, I got the money back, it makes it much more real, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember what was the first physical item. I think I ordered, I bought something on Amazon using, someone was selling Amazon coupons for Bitcoins.
Yeah.
So
eventually I worked for a company that did a very similar job of that at Purse.io, and a lot of them started out on the Bitcoin Talk forums, like finding the gift cards for cheap, trading them for the Bitcoin, trading it for more money, finding more gift cards for cheap. I mean, it's fascinating to see how like a digital currency that's highly controlled by a centralized company like Amazon could then intermatch with a decentralized digital currency, and they have much in common, but they also have a lot of differences as well. So, yeah, they were a good match for each other.
Yeah. I can't remember what I did first, if it was the burger or the Amazon thing. Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably a beer. You probably bought a beer.
Oh yeah,
with
that
Bitcoin.
too. That
So,
too. Yes.
but that's magnificent. So you start meeting Amir, going to Berlin, really spreading it. I mean, does Electrum keep growing? Like you keep adding programmers and it becomes a larger thing?
Yeah. We had. I mean, like I said, it was a company start. The company was started in 2014. Before that, it was not a company. It was just a
Software. Yeah.
just a
Yeah,
software,
idea,
free
yeah.
software project.
Yeah.
And still today, the company is there in order to pay developers. But if the company was shut down, the project would survive.
Sure.
Because the architecture is not run by the company. The Electrum servers, the company Electrum does not run any server actually, because that's easier with requests from law enforcement.
Sure.
So the only Electrum server I run is on RegTest,
Yeah.
testnet. So the company is a tool to pay developers.
Yep.
And I mean, we started. I think I created the company because I also had a business model with two-factor authentication. So this was our first product. We have 2 of 3 multisig. That is easy to use because it's a very similar user experience to a regular Electrum wallet. You just have a single seed that you need to back up. And the only additional thing you have is Google Authenticator. And there was this company in the US, Trusted Coin, they co-signed the transaction. And so we had a partnership. We have a partnership with them. So this is how I got my first revenue stream in Electrum.
Yeah.
And this is how I managed to pay some developers.
Nice. So what are you working on today? Anything you're planning for the future of Electrum?
Well, yes, we are still working on better integrating Lightning. Lightning has been a long journey because we have implemented the whole thing. We decided not to use any of the existing implementations because we need to be able to build in what we want.
Yeah.
If we use LND or Eclair, the thing is that they have very good implementations, but they do not open source everything. For example, I mentioned yesterday that LND does not open source the submarine swap servers. Eclair doesn't open source the just-in-time channel. I mean, anything that is that you want to, where you want to add your own features, you have to do it yourself.
Sure.
So this is why I think it was more interesting to implement this in Electrum and not to depend on one of those foreign implementations.
Well, absolutely. And you were talking about how you weren't sure if they were going to change the license, and they'd offered it in one license first, and it could always change.
Oh, that was Bolt. Yeah, Bolt
if
decided to change their license for phishing reasons. Yes.
Yeah. And if it's not open source, it just is incompatible with yours and so many other projects.
I think that Lightning Labs will remain open source. But they just, no. We also want to implement, I mean, we don't have the same philosophy as them when it comes, for example, to trampoline routing. We adopted the trampoline. Trampoline was invented by Async. And it has not yet been implemented by Lightning Labs. I think LDK, they say they are working on it, Lightning Labs too, but we don't know when it's going to come. So in the meantime, you cannot afford to waste 2-3 years because users want to have a good user experience.
Sure.
So we implemented the trampoline in Electrum, and we even have multi-trampoline routes, so you can actually have more privacy than if you use a single trampoline.
Excellent.
And the next thing, I think, I think Phoenix is a very good wallet, and we are going to be a little bit more like Phoenix in the future with those just-in-time channels that they already have.
Nice. And where can people learn more and download Electrum?
Oh, they can download it. They must download it on our website, electrum.org.
Right.
I don't like to. I mean, yeah, Electrum is also shipped in a bunch of Linux distros, but we do not endorse any other distributor that is not us because it's very risky.
Yep.
So I
So
think.
possibility something could get into there and steal your coins.
Yeah. It's. I always tell people go to electrum.org, and if you can verify the PGP signatures.
So are you happy that you left academia and moved into Bitcoin? Did it work out?
Yes, I'm happy, but at the same time, I mean, academia was also very exciting.
Yes.
It's really hard to choose. Every time you choose, you have to give up something. Yeah.
I know I was talking to Peter Todd yesterday, and he talked about how the traditional electronics industry had been really pushed to its limits. There wasn't much there that he was interested or he felt he could invent or add to. But when he came to Bitcoin and blockchain technologies, he was like, I can add something, I can improve this, I can be a part of it. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, it's more exciting when you find a new topic because you can definitely add something.
Yeah. Well,
but
thanks.
I mean, technology in general is a big set of fields that are cross-fertilizing. So you can always find new connections. In the time that you are living, there is always something new popping up. And every time there is something new, you can see how it relates to all the rest that there is.
Sure.
And you can try to find new combinations. So I think the potential, we live a really exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. Programmable money could do anything.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Thomas, for the interview. Thanks for spending time with us today.